It's Big Board Sports with Roger Wyland on 104.5 The Team.
Man, it's great to have football back. Great to have football season back, and that means Freddie Coleman is back with us here on Big Board Sports and 104.5 The Team, ESPN Radio. I thought watching that game last night, Woodsy, that, boy, New England goes down and scores in less than 3 minutes. And then Kareem Hunt fumbles on his first NFL carry. And I thought, well, I'll put this one in the books. I mean, New England's just simply going to run away with this game the way I figured they would. I thought they'd cover the 8 or 9 point spread, whatever the heck it was, at kickoff. And I couldn't have been any more wrong than I was last night. Freddie Coleman, you hear his show here, Freddie and Fitz on 104.5 The Team, weeknights 11 p.m. until 2 a.m., and he's good enough every Friday during the NFL season to get up early with us. Freddie, Chris Honorato, and Matt Woods in for Roger this morning, man. It's great to talk to you. How are you?
I'm good, gentlemen. How's everybody doing today in the Capital District?
We are good as well. Looking forward to you being back in the Capital Region September 19th for Coaches versus Cancer. We had Mike Bray on yesterday, and have of course spoken with Coach Patsos and Coach Brown about the event. It's a great event, and I know everybody is thrilled that you will be part of it again this year. Give me your thoughts, Freddie, on what you saw last night between the Patriots and the Chiefs, and a New England defense and offensive line that just somehow could not contain Kansas City.
2 words: speed kills, because we saw that last night from Kansas City. And you can have the best scheme in the world, but in this day and age in the NFL, if you don't have playmakers that can run 150 miles an hour, at a certain point you can only out-scheme people for so long. And those 2 red flags that I saw from the Patriots last night, you have to have a pass rush. You need that guy. You can only do that for so long and not have a team like the Kansas City Chiefs, or even last year in the Super Bowl for the first 2.5 quarters, the Atlanta Falcons, where the Patriots defense could not keep up with their speed. So that's number 1 red flag. And number 2, and I said this when it happened, when Julian Edelman tore his ACL, he's not an elite wide receiver, but he's an elite wide receiver in that offense. And who is going to step up and replace that production? We saw him step up for Rob Gronkowski when Gronkowski got hurt, and Edelman became that guy. Now can Gronkowski do the same thing and step up to replace that production? If last night is any indication, and there's still 15 games to go, that may take a lot longer than we thought for the New England Patriots.
Freddie, are you buying the narrative that Tom Brady is old all of a sudden? Are you buying the narrative that there are issues with this New England team that they simply will not be able to fix to still be the number 1 seed in the AFC?
Well, Tom Brady is old. I mean, he's 40 years of age. There's nothing we can do about that. That's just Father Time and evolution. He's just continuing to play at a high level and an elite level at that age, and a lot of people did not think we were going to see that. So it's not a whole Tom Brady is old thing. There are going to be times that if you don't give him that protection, or we saw Kansas City did, they did the exact same thing that the Houston Texans did in their playoff game. They basically said, we can get pressure 3 and 4 people, we'll drop 7 in the coverage, and we're going to dare you to beat us over the top. He was not able to do that, and he was not able to have that short passing game and have that work for the Patriots, because Julian Edelman is no longer part of this offense, at least for this season. So Tom Brady is an old quarterback. There's no doubt about it. He's just been an outlier playing that way at that age. But a lot of things I saw last night was something that I saw from the Houston Texans in that playoff game, and for the Atlanta Falcons, where they're able to bother him a little bit, drop guys in coverage, and trust they're going to get pressure with 3 and 4 people that we saw in the second half from Kansas City, especially in the fourth quarter.
Switching over to the NFC, Freddie, Ezekiel Elliott is apparently playing in this Giants-Cowboys game coming up on Sunday night. What do you make of the possible decision that could happen today? And do you think he will end up playing this whole season with the Cowboys?
The possibility is there, but whether he plays this whole season or not, he is going to serve that 6-game suspension, because his union, the NFL Players Association, allowed this to be part of the collective bargaining agreement. And I'll never forget when all this happened. I said, you know what? The players wanted to get paid. You were willing to sign off on Roger Goodell in the NFL office, having control of player discipline. I don't want to hear any stories or combat stories when things don't go your way about a year or 2 years from now. And then a year later, the players are complaining about it. And I said, I don't want to hear it. This is what you bargained for in the CBA, and this is what you're going to get. Now, do I like the inconsistency of the decisions and the disciplines that Roger Goodell brings down? I don't think anybody likes that. But I don't want to hear the Players Association complaining about it, because this is what they signed off on. So no matter what, it could be this season, it could be next season, but he's going to serve that 6 games. If Tom Brady served 4 games for Deflategate, Ezekiel Elliott's going to serve 6 games for this lock, stock, and barrel. He can try to fight it all he wants, but legally he does not have a leg to stand on, because they can look at him and say, well, your union said that this can happen, part of the articles, part of the CBA. You have no reason to believe that you're going to win this or have this reduced. If the NFL says you're going to serve 6 games, then Ezekiel Elliott better be prepared to serve 6 games. And if I'm him, I get it out of the way as soon as possible. You play this week, maybe play next week, then you serve the 6 games, and then get back on the football field. And maybe this is a life learning lesson for him to really be better than what we've seen or heard from him so far, even after only 1 year in the National Football League.
Interesting. He will play Sunday night, of course. Freddie Coleman with us here on Big Board Sports 104.5 The Team, ESPN Radio. You can find Freddie on Twitter at Coleman ESPN, and his show every night 11 until 2 a.m. Freddie, Giants-Cowboys Sunday night. As a fan, I want to see Elliott on the field because he presents the best opportunity for a really good football game. Now, look, if he's guilty of what he is accused of doing, then I don't want to see him on the field for at least those 6 games like you mentioned. But I also want to see Odell Beckham Jr. healthy and ready to go in prime time in what is a really good rivalry in football. If Beckham isn't, let's say he's 80%, Freddie, would you play him still if you're the Giants?
That's a really good question, because if you're the Giants, as many playmakers you need on the field, you're going to need those guys out there. And that's not to say they don't have playmakers on offense, but they don't have anybody like Odell Beckham Jr. that's going to help the quarterback, and Eli Manning and help the running game. If he's 80%, you know he wants to be out there. But if I'm the New York Giants, I'm not willing to risk him re-injuring that ankle, and then you lose it for 2 or 3 or 4 more games, and then you don't know how that's going to affect him the rest of the season, trying to push that boulder uphill and trying to overcome it. So if he's compromised in any way to the point that he can't be the Odell Beckham Jr. that you expect and that you've seen, you can't put him out there if you're the New York Giants. But we know Odell Beckham Jr. loves the spotlight. He's going to try to do everything he can and then some to be out there. But the Giants have to save him from himself. If he can't do those things, if he has to be in on certain plays because his ankle won't allow him to be in on every play, then you can't play him on Sunday night. You can't afford to risk him for 1 game and have that affect him and this team the rest of the season.
Freddie, I got to get your take on the battle for the AFC East coming up on Sunday between the Jets and the Bills.
That's what it's called, the battle for the AFC East?
The battle for the AFC East, for first place. What do you make of this game, and is this an actual game that fans are going to want to watch?
It's going to be a BFG, a bad football game. Let's call it what it is, guys. Although I will say this, it is a battle for first place because the Patriots right now are in last place in the AFC East, and we know that's going to change by Sunday night. The one thing I want to see from the Buffalo Bills, whether Tyrod Taylor plays or not, this team was really effective at running the football. Are they going to go away from that with a new coaching staff, whether Nathan Peterman starts or Tyrod Taylor starts at quarterback? This team is only going to be as good as LaShawn McCoy running the football. So that's what I want to see, number 1, from the Buffalo Bills. On the other side, from the New York Jets, this is like a deck of cards you just throw up in the air, and you wonder what kind of cards are going to land with the Jets. I mean, McCown's going to play quarterback. They barely have anybody on defense. They got a lot of turmoil in their locker room after making the trade of Sheldon Richardson going to the Seattle Seahawks. There are going to be so many guys probably wondering what's going to happen when we get out there in the playing field, because I know as a Jets fan, I'm wondering the same thing. What kind of football team are we going to see? And I said it before the season, I'll stand on it. This is at best a 4 or 5 win team. I think Buffalo can get to at least 6 games, but the New York Jets, as bad as they are, tanking, even though they won't say that, this is maybe a 3 or 4 win team at best, possibly 5. This may be a BFG, a bad football game when it's all said and done.
Freddie, last thing, and we'll let you go, although maybe you can give us your Super Bowl pick here before we let you out. A lot of people don't agree with much of what the commissioner in the NFL does, but man, did he get it right in his response to, number 1, the Las Vegas Police Department's suggestion that the NFL should investigate Michael Bennett, and then 2, the statement that Goodell released yesterday, in part saying Michael Bennett represents the best of the NFL, a leader on his team and in his community. Our foremost concern is the welfare of Michael and his family. Everybody by now knows what happened with Michael Bennett in Las Vegas after the fight Mayweather-McGregor. Your thoughts on how this was handled by the commissioner, and then 2, what this will do throughout the season, knowing that Bennett has already been a guy who has chosen the time of the national anthem to display some form of protest.
One of the things about that, and I'm with you, I was glad to see the NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell, because he knows more about Michael Bennett than anybody in Las Vegas that night outside of the friends of Michael Bennett who were hanging around him. This has been somebody who has never even run afoul of the law in any given situation. This is one of those aberration situations where Roger Goodell said, look, we need to stand by one of our own in the National Football League who is not doing anything wrong. We can't cast those kind of aspersions on him. That's number one. Number two, the one thing that really jumped out to me about this whole situation is that if people were running out of the casino because somebody told them to evacuate because they thought they heard shots fired, then why was he the only one detained by the Las Vegas Police Department? So if he represented a threat, there's a better way to handle that, in my opinion. And if plenty of people were running out of the casino, why did you pick him out if you had a Las Vegas Police Department? And that is something that hopefully the investigation will get to the bottom of. It's going to be very hard because there's so much gray area there where a lot of chaos is going on in that situation. But that's the one thing that jumped out to me was the fact that, and the other thing was, okay, after you found out who he was, then you released him. So you're trying to tell me that if he was not somebody of circumstance, somebody of stature, would have ended differently in that situation if his name was not Michael Bennett. Those are two questions out there about this that I want answered, and hopefully we'll get an answer that's going to satisfy everybody and not just Michael Bennett or the Las Vegas Police Department.
And, look, when it comes to the protests, would I do it during the national anthem? My answer has always been no. But Freddie, as a white man, it's difficult for me to say don't do it then, because look at all the attention it has garnered. So whether or not you agree with the timing of it, it has been an effective form of protest. You simply cannot argue against that. Freddie, it's great to hear your voice again. It's great to have you on with us all season long here, 10:30 on Fridays during the NFL season. Thanks so much for the time and perspective, man.
My pleasure, gentlemen. You guys have a great weekend. Enjoy the first NFL weekend. I'll talk to you guys next week.
You too,
Thanks,
Freddie. Freddie Coleman, Freddie and Fitz, right here on 104.5 The Team, ESPN Radio, 11 o'clock until 2 a.m.